The monitoring station at the edge of the Sol system hummed quietly in the endless darkness of space. Commander Thale checked his instruments for the 1000th time that cycle, watching the same empty readings that had appeared on his screens for generations. Earth remained silent, as it had for 10,000 years. Still nothing from the third planet, reported Lieutenant Kess, her multiple arms working the control panels with practiced efficiency. The blue-skinned alien had been assigned to this post for over 50 rotations, and every day brought the same result. No communications, no deep space signals, no signs of advanced civilization. Thale nodded without surprise. His own grandfather had served at this same station, and his grandfather before that. For countless generations, the various alien species of the galaxy had maintained this watch over humanity's home system. It had become more tradition than necessity. Sometimes I wonder if they're even alive down there, Kess muttered, adjusting the long-range sensors. The biosignatures are so faint. Maybe they destroyed themselves like the Corvani did. They're alive, Thale said with certainty. The energy readings prove that much. But they're doing something down there. Something that requires complete isolation. Far from the monitoring station, on the bridge of the Galactic Council flagship, Admiral Vex studied the ancient human artifacts that floated in the center of the command room. The holographic displays showed items that had been recovered from abandoned human colonies before the Great Silence began. Tools, art pieces, and most importantly, data crystals containing the final messages of humanity. Dr. Elena Martinez had been one of the last humans to speak with alien species. Her research notes, preserved for nearly 10,000 years, painted a picture of a species on the edge of a breakthrough. Her final entry was brief but troubling. We have discovered something that changes everything. The others cannot know. We must withdraw completely until the preparation is finished. Admiral Vex had read those words countless times, trying to understand what could have driven humanity to abandon the galaxy so completely. Humans had been active members of the galactic community for over 300 years before the Silence. They had established colonies, traded with other species, and shared their knowledge freely. Then, in the span of less than a year, they had recalled every human from every colony and ceased all communication. The last transmission from Earth had been delivered by Captain James Morrison, humanity's representative to the Galactic Council. His message was played at every council meeting, a reminder of the mystery that haunted them all. Friends of the galaxy, we must withdraw. What we have learned requires absolute secrecy and complete isolation. Do not attempt to contact us. Do not enter our system. When we return, we may not be the species you remember. This is not goodbye forever, but it may be goodbye to who we once were. That had been 9,847 years ago by the Galactic Standard Calendar. On the research vessel Distant Hope, Dr. Patricia Wells examined the latest sensor readings from the Sol system. As the galaxy's leading expert on human culture, she had dedicated her life to understanding what had happened to Earth's inhabitants. The readings were always the same: minimal energy signatures, basic atmospheric maintenance systems, and life signs that suggested a population in some form of suspended animation. It doesn't make sense, she said to her assistant, a young Zephyrian named Marcus. The humans we knew were explorers, inventors, dreamers. They would never simply hide on their home world for 10,000 years unless something forced them to. Marcus tilted his scaled head thoughtfully. Perhaps they found something dangerous. Something that required them to protect the rest of the galaxy by isolating themselves. Dr. Wells pulled up the historical records. Before the Silence, humanity had been pushing the boundaries of scientific knowledge at an alarming rate. They had developed faster-than-light communication systems that worked differently from anyone else's technology. They had begun experiments with dimensional physics that made other species nervous. Most disturbing of all, they had started exploring regions of space that other civilizations avoided. Look at this, Dr. Wells said, highlighting a section of the records. 6 months before the Great Silence, human deep space explorers reported finding unusual readings in the void between galaxies. Energy patterns that didn't match any known phenomena. What kind of energy patterns? Marcus asked. They never said. The reports were classified immediately, and within weeks, all human exploration vessels were recalled to Earth. The mystery had spawned countless theories over the millennia. Some believed humans had discovered a terrible weapon and withdrawn to prevent themselves from using it. Others thought they had encountered hostile aliens and were preparing for war. The most popular theory among younger species was that humanity had simply grown tired of galactic politics and chosen isolation. But the elder races remembered humans differently. They remembered a species driven by curiosity, always asking questions that others preferred not to answer. They remembered humans pushing boundaries, taking risks, and refusing to accept that some knowledge was too dangerous to seek. In the deepest archives of the Galactic Council, sealed records told a different story. Ancient observers had reported strange phenomena around the Sol system in the years following the Great Silence. Ships that appeared briefly on sensors before vanishing. Energy discharges that seemed to come from empty space. Most disturbing of all, reports of space itself seeming to bend and twist around Earth's solar system. These reports had been classified and forgotten, deemed too impossible to be accurate. But they remained in the files, waiting for someone brave enough to read them and ask the questions that everyone else feared to consider. What if humanity hadn't withdrawn from the galaxy? What if they had gone somewhere else entirely, somewhere beyond the reach of conventional sensors and communication systems? What if their silence wasn't isolation, but preparation for something that required them to become something other than what they had been? The monitoring station continued its endless watch, faithfully recording the minimal signs of life from the third planet of an unremarkable yellow star. But in the depths of space, in the darkness between the galaxies, something vast and patient had begun to stir. Something that had noticed the sudden silence of a young, curious species and was slowly turning its attention toward the galaxy they had abandoned. The great silence was about to end, but not in the way anyone expected. The alarm bells on the monitoring station screamed through the corridors, breaking 10,000 years of silence. Commander Thale rushed to his control panel, his hands shaking as he stared at the impossible readings on his screen. "Commander, you need to see this," Lieutenant Kess called out, her voice filled with disbelief. "Long-range sensors have detected something coming from beyond Pluto's orbit. It's massive." Thale looked at the data streaming across his monitors. A ship, clearly of human design but unlike anything in their historical records, was drifting through the outer edges of the solar system. The vessel was enormous, stretching over 15 kilometers from bow to stern, its dark hull covered in strange markings that seemed to shift when viewed directly. "Send an immediate transmission to Admiral Vex," Thale ordered. "Priority 1. The humans have returned." Aboard the Galactic Council flagship, Admiral Vex felt his 3 hearts skip as he received the emergency message. For 10,000 years, his people had waited for this moment. He rushed to the bridge, where his crew was already analyzing the sensor data. "Ship identification," he demanded. "Unknown configuration," reported sensor operator Mel, her tentacles dancing across the control interface. "The computer recognizes it as human technology, but it's like nothing in our databases. The hull appears to be made of materials that don't show up properly on our scans." Admiral Vex studied the image of the mysterious vessel on the main screen. It looked ancient and powerful, its surface scarred by what appeared to be countless years of travel through unknown space. Dark energy patterns rippled along its hull like waves on a black ocean. "Any response to our communication attempts?" he asked. "Only an automated distress beacon," came the reply. "It's broadcasting in old Earth languages. The message keeps repeating, Harbinger's rest requesting assistance. Crew in emergency status. Mission parameters achieved. Seeking guidance from home." The ship's trajectory was troubling. According to their calculations, it would pass dangerously close to several populated systems within the next 6 months. Its unknown cargo and purpose could pose a threat to billions of lives across multiple worlds. Dr. Patricia Wells appeared on the bridge via holographic projection from her research vessel. Her excitement was obvious despite the poor image quality. "Admiral, this changes everything. After all these years of silence, they've finally come back. We need to make contact immediately." "Our protocols are clear," Admiral Vex reminded her. "The Sol system has been declared off-limits since the Great Silence. We cannot enter without human permission." "But they're not answering our calls," Lieutenant Commander Ross pointed out. "Just that automated message, over and over. What if something's wrong? What if they need help?" The debate continued for hours in the emergency session of the Galactic Council. Representatives from 7 different species argued about the proper course of action. Some wanted to respect the ancient agreements and wait for humanity to make contact. Others worried about the potential danger of an unknown human vessel carrying mysterious cargo through populated space. "We have to consider the possibility that this isn't the same humanity that left us," warned Counselor Zara of the Meridian Worlds. 10,000 years of isolation could have changed them in ways we can't imagine. "Or they could be in desperate need of help," countered Dr. Wells. "Their message specifically mentions emergency status. What if their crew is dying while we debate protocol?" Finally, faced with the potential for disaster, the Council voted to authorize a joint expedition. Ships from 5 major species would approach the human vessel and attempt to determine its intentions. If the crew was in danger, they would provide assistance. If the ship posed a threat, they would take appropriate action. As the expedition fleet approached the mysterious vessel, their instruments began behaving strangely. The ship seemed to bend space around itself in ways that violated every known law of physics. Energy readings fluctuated wildly, and several crew members reported feeling dizzy when looking directly at the vessel. "This is impossible," muttered Dr. Nathan Cross, the expedition's chief scientist. "The ship appears to be larger on the inside than on the outside. Our sensors can't get consistent readings." The human vessel, Harbinger's Rest, made no aggressive moves as the alien ships approached. It continued broadcasting its automated distress signal, drifting silently through space like a ghost from humanity's past. "Look at those hull modifications," observed Captain Sarah Mitchell, studying the ship through her vessel's powerful telescopes. "Those aren't weapons or standard equipment. They look almost organic. Like the ship has been grown rather than built." Strange lights pulsed beneath the vessel's surface, creating patterns that seemed to have meaning but followed no recognizable design. The hull itself appeared to shift and flow slightly, as if it were made of liquid metal that had learned to hold its shape. "Admiral," reported the communications officer, "we're receiving a new transmission from the human ship. It's not automated this time." The main screen flickered to life, showing a chamber filled with soft, blue light. A figure appeared, human in basic shape but somehow different. The person's features were sharper, more angular, and their eyes held an awareness that seemed to extend beyond normal perception. "Welcome," the figure said in perfect but archaic English. "I am David, speaker for the Harbinger's Rest. We have traveled far and seen much. Our mission to the spaces between galaxies is complete, and we bring word from the deep void." Admiral Vex stepped forward. "We received your distress signal. Do you require assistance?" David's expression grew serious. "Assistance? No. Warning? Yes. The Watchers have awakened. The Devourers stir in the darkness beyond the stars. Humanity's long preparation is nearly complete, but time grows short." Before anyone could ask what he meant, alarms began sounding throughout the human ship. David looked surprised, then concerned. "It seems our arrival has triggered something. The awakening protocols have activated. My shipmates are emerging from their long sleep." Throughout the massive vessel, lights began flickering on in sections that had appeared dead moments before. The ship's energy output increased dramatically, and the space around it began to shimmer like heat waves rising from hot pavement. "Prepare yourselves," David warned. "You are about to meet humanity as we have become." The airlock of the massive human ship opened with a soft hiss, revealing corridors that seemed to stretch far beyond what should have been possible. Admiral Vex led the joint expedition team through passages that glowed with a strange inner light, their walls appearing to pulse gently like living tissue. "This doesn't follow any known engineering principles," whispered Dr. Nathan Cross, running his scanner along the walls. "The readings show that the interior space is somehow larger than the exterior dimensions. It's as if the ship exists in multiple dimensions at once." Lieutenant Commander Ross kept close to the group, his weapon ready despite the peaceful atmosphere. "The air composition is normal, but there's something else. An energy reading I can't identify. It feels like the ship is alive." They followed David, their human guide, deeper into the vessel. His movements were fluid and graceful, almost floating as he walked. When he turned to speak, his eyes reflected the corridor lights in a way that seemed unnatural. "The Harbinger's Rest has been our home for centuries," David explained. "We have traveled to the spaces between galaxies, where normal matter becomes thin and reality bends in impossible ways. The ship had to adapt to survive such journeys." The expedition team exchanged worried glances. Dr. Patricia Wells stepped forward, her recording equipment capturing everything. "David, what happened to humanity? Why did your people disappear for 10,000 years?" "We did not disappear," David replied, his voice carrying strange harmonics. "We transformed. What you are about to see may frighten you, but please understand that we are still human at our core. We simply became more than we were." They entered a vast chamber that took their breath away. The space was enormous, filled with thousands upon thousands of stasis pods arranged in perfect rows that stretched beyond the limits of their vision. Each pod contained a human figure, but something was clearly different about the occupants. "They're too tall," gasped Captain Mitchell. "And their limbs, they look elongated, almost stretched." The humans in the pods were indeed changed. Their bodies appeared adapted for environments that normal humans could never survive. Some had skin that shimmered with metallic properties, others had enlarged craniums that suggested enhanced brain capacity, and all of them possessed an otherworldly beauty that was both fascinating and disturbing. "Welcome to the heart of our vessel," said a new voice. The expedition team turned to see a shimmering hologram materializing before them. The figure appeared to be a tall woman with silver hair and eyes that seemed to hold the wisdom of ages. "I am Elizabeth, the ship's consciousness. I was once human, but I chose to merge with the vessel itself to guide our journey through the void. I have watched over the sleepers for 800 years while they dreamed of distant worlds." Admiral Vex found his voice. "How many are there?" 2,700,000 souls, Elizabeth replied. "Each one a volunteer who left Earth when the Great Transformation began. We were sent to explore the darkness between galaxies while our home world underwent its own evolution." The chamber filled with a low humming sound, and the stasis pods began to glow brighter. Elizabeth's expression became concerned. "The awakening sequence has activated. Your presence has triggered our return protocols. The sleepers will emerge whether we are ready or not." One by one, the pods began opening with soft hydraulic sounds. The first humans to emerge moved with incredible grace, their enhanced bodies adapting instantly to consciousness. They looked around with eyes that seemed to see far more than just the physical chamber. A woman with pale blue skin and silver hair approached the group. Her voice, when she spoke, seemed to come from multiple directions at once. "I am Sarah, though that name feels small now. We are the Wayfarers, the ones who traveled beyond the edge of everything to learn what waits in the darkness." More humans emerged from their pods, each one unique in their adaptations but all sharing the same otherworldly presence. A tall man with elongated features and eyes like stars stepped forward. "I am Michael. We have seen the spaces between galaxies, where ancient things sleep and dream of consumption. We have learned why humanity chose silence and transformation." Dr. Wells felt overwhelmed by the strangeness of the situation. These were still humans, she could tell, but they had become something far beyond what she remembered from the historical records. "What did you find out there?" A third figure approached, this one female with skin that seemed to shift between solid and translucent. "I am Rebecca. We found the Devourers, the entities that consume entire civilizations. They feed on consciousness itself, turning complex thoughts and emotions into simple energy. They have noticed our galaxy." The alien expedition team felt a chill run through them. Admiral Vex stepped forward. "What are these Devourers? How do we fight them?" "You don't fight them," replied Thomas, a human whose form flickered slightly as if he existed in multiple places simultaneously. "You become something they cannot consume. Something that exists beyond their ability to understand or devour." Elizabeth's hologram grew brighter. The transformation that humanity underwent was not by choice, but by necessity. "We discovered that the Devourers are drawn to civilizations that use advanced technology. Every faster-than-light communication, every energy weapon, every artificial intelligence sends signals into the void that attract their attention. And now they're coming here," added Sarah, her multiple voices creating an eerie harmony. "The galaxy's own advancement has called them. They will arrive soon, and when they do, only those who have transcended normal existence will survive." The awakened humans looked at their alien visitors with expressions of pity and hope mixed together. More pods continued opening throughout the vast chamber, releasing humans who had been transformed by their journey through spaces that normal matter could not survive. "We offer you a choice," said Michael, his star-like eyes fixed on Admiral Vex. "Return to your people and prepare them for transformation, or remain as you are and face extinction when the Devourers arrive." "How long do we have?" asked Dr. Cross, his scientific mind racing to process the implications. "Time moves differently in the void," replied Rebecca, her form becoming more solid as she spoke. "But the advanced scouts are already at the galaxy's edge. Perhaps months, perhaps less." The weight of the revelation settled over the expedition team like a heavy blanket. Humanity had not abandoned the galaxy, they had sacrificed their very nature to become its protectors. The price of survival was transformation into something barely recognizable as the species they had once been. Around them, thousands more humans continued awakening from their long sleep, each one a testament to the lengths their species had gone to ensure that life itself might survive in a universe filled with ancient hunger. The awakened humans led the alien expedition deeper into their impossible ship, through corridors that seemed to change shape as they walked. Admiral Vex noticed that the walls appeared to breathe, expanding and contracting in a slow, steady rhythm that matched his own heartbeat. "Your ship is alive," Dr. Wells observed, running her hand along the smooth surface of the wall. It felt warm to the touch, like skin. All of our technology had to evolve, explained David, his form flickering slightly as he moved. Normal materials cannot survive in the spaces between galaxies. We learned to grow our vessels rather than build them, to merge with them rather than simply pilot them. They entered a smaller chamber filled with floating holographic displays showing images from humanity's past. The records began 10,000 years ago, when Earth scientists made their terrible discovery. It started with Dr. Jennifer Martinez, said Sarah, her voice carrying sadness that seemed to echo from multiple dimensions. She was studying quantum patterns in deep space when she detected something impossible: intelligence in the void between galaxies. The holographic images showed frantic meetings in Earth's government buildings. Scientists and leaders arguing over data that made no sense according to known physics. The recordings captured humanity's growing horror as they realized what they had found. The Devourers are not like any life form you know, continued Michael, his star-filled eyes reflecting the holographic light. They do not eat matter or energy. They consume the patterns that create meaning, thoughts, emotions, art, love itself. When they finish with a civilization, nothing remains but empty atoms floating in space. Dr. Cross watched the historical records with growing fear. How many civilizations have they destroyed? Thousands, replied Rebecca, her translucent form shimmering. Perhaps millions. They have been traveling through the universe for longer than galaxies have existed, turning complex life back into simple matter. The holographic displays shifted to show humanity's final days as a normal species. The images were heartbreaking: families saying goodbye, children who would never see their parents again, lovers separated by choices that would change them forever. We had options, explained Thomas, his voice coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. We could run, hide at the edge of the universe and hope the Devourers would never find us. We could fight them with conventional weapons and die like every other civilization. Or we could become something they could not consume. Admiral Vex felt his 3 hearts beating faster. What does that mean exactly? It means giving up everything that makes you who you are, said Elizabeth, her hologram appearing beside them. The transformation process breaks down every cell, every thought, every memory, and rebuilds them according to new patterns. You become capable of existing in multiple dimensions, of traveling through spaces that normal matter cannot survive. The holographic records showed the beginning of humanity's great transformation. Massive facilities built across Earth where volunteers entered as normal humans and emerged as something entirely different. The process took decades for each individual, and not everyone survived. The pain was beyond description, said Sarah, her multiple voices carrying the memory of suffering. Everything you are has to die so that something new can be born. Many of us went insane during the transition. Others simply stopped existing altogether. But those who survived became something the Devourers cannot understand or consume, added Michael. We exist partially outside normal spacetime. Our consciousness spans multiple dimensions. We are no longer purely biological beings. Dr. Wells felt sick as she watched families torn apart by the transformation process. How could you make such a choice? Because the alternative was extinction for everyone, replied Rebecca. Not just humanity, but every thinking species in the galaxy. The Devourers were already on their way. Our only hope was to become guardians capable of fighting them on their own terms. The images shifted to show the Wayfarer's departure from Earth. 2 million volunteers boarding ships like the Harbinger's Rest, heading out into the void to scout the enemy and learn their weaknesses. Meanwhile, billions more humans remained on Earth to undergo their own transformation. We sent scouts to every region of space beyond the galaxy's edge, explained David. We needed to understand the Devourers completely before they arrived. What we learned was terrifying. The holographic displays showed vast entities moving through the darkness between galaxies. They were not ships or creatures in any normal sense, but rather distortions in reality itself. Where they passed, stars went dark and planets became lifeless rocks. They feed on consciousness, said Thomas. Every thought, every dream, every moment of awareness becomes food for them. They particularly enjoy destroying civilizations at their peak, when art and science and love are most complex. And they're coming here because of us, added Sarah sadly. Every species in this galaxy has been broadcasting signals into space for thousands of years. Faster-than-light communications, energy weapons, artificial intelligence, all of it sends patterns into the void that attract the Devourer's attention. Admiral Vex felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. What can we do? How do we prepare our people for this transformation? Not everyone can survive the change, warned Michael. It requires complete surrender of everything you think you are. Many beings are too attached to their current form to accept what they must become. The process is voluntary, added Rebecca. But those who refuse will not be able to fight the devourers when they arrive. They will become food for entities that see consciousness itself as a meal. Dr. Cross studied the technical readouts showing the transformation process. How long does it take? For individuals, decades, replied Elizabeth. For entire civilizations, centuries. But the devourers are already at the galaxy's edge. We may have only months to begin the process for those who choose it. The alien expedition team stood in stunned silence, processing the magnitude of what they had learned. Humanity had sacrificed its very nature to become something capable of protecting the galaxy. But the price was so high that many species might choose extinction rather than pay it. Around them, more transformed humans continued awakening from their long journey through the void, each one a reminder that survival sometimes required becoming something unrecognizable from what you once were. The silence that had lasted 10,000 years ended with a sound that no living being had ever heard before. It was not a voice or a signal, but something that appeared directly in the minds of every conscious creature across the galaxy. The message was simple and terrifying: we have returned. Choose transformation or face the darkness. Admiral Vex stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching as space around Earth began to ripple like water disturbed by stones. Massive shapes emerged from what appeared to be folded reality itself, ships that defied every law of physics he knew. They moved like living creatures, their hulls flowing and shifting as they crossed impossible distances in moments. Energy readings are off the charts, reported Lieutenant Commander Ross, his voice shaking. These vessels are registering power levels that should be impossible. And they're not entirely in our dimension. The human fleet was beyond counting. Ships ranging from small fighters to massive carriers that dwarfed entire space stations materialized throughout the solar system. Each vessel bore the scars of unimaginable journeys and modifications that made them barely recognizable as technology. They pulsed within a light and seemed to exist in several places at once. On Earth below, cities that had been dark for millennia blazed to life with light that came from sources existing beyond normal perception. The planet itself was changing, becoming translucent in places, as if it was slowly fading from normal space into somewhere else entirely. The Galactic Council emergency session was chaos. Representatives from dozens of species argued frantically about how to respond to humanity's return. Some called for immediate surrender to whatever demands the transformed humans might make. Others wanted to fight against what they saw as an invasion by creatures that were no longer truly human. "They are broadcasting transformation coordinates," announced Dr. Wells from her research vessel. "Locations where any species can come to undergo the same evolution process that changed humanity. But they are also warning that time is running short." The choice was impossible. Many species, led by their wisest leaders, chose to trust humanity despite their fear. The transformation centers that materialized across the galaxy were places of incredible pain and rebirth. Those who entered emerged as something beyond their original nature, beings capable of existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously. But not everyone chose transformation. The proud Korthani Empire, masters of conventional warfare for thousands of years, saw humanity's return as a challenge to their dominance. They launched a massive attack against the human fleet, confident that their advanced weapons could destroy any enemy. The result was swift and terrible. Korthani weapons passed harmlessly through human ships that existed partially outside normal space. The humans' response was not violent but absolute. Entire Korthani battle fleets simply ceased to exist, not destroyed but unmade, as if they had never been created at all. "It's not destruction," observed Dr. Cross, analyzing the sensor data. "They're removing the attacking ships from reality itself. The Korthani vessels aren't exploding or breaking apart, they're just not there anymore." Other species watched in horror and awe as the most powerful military force in the galaxy was erased without a single human weapon being fired. The message was clear: resistance was not just futile, it was meaningless against beings who could manipulate the very fabric of existence. Then the real enemy arrived. The first Devourer scout emerged from the void between galaxies like a tear in space itself. It was not a ship or creature in any recognizable sense, but rather a distortion in reality that consumed everything it touched. Where it passed, stars dimmed and went dark. Planets became lifeless husks drained of every spark of consciousness they had ever contained. Captain Victoria Nash, who had once been human but was now something far beyond that simple description, led the first wave of defenders. Her vessel, which had no name in any language but existed as a concept of eternal vigilance, met the Devourer at the galaxy's edge. The battle that followed took place across dimensions that normal minds could not perceive. Victoria and her crew, their consciousness flowing through spacetime itself, fought an entity that existed as pure negation. The Devourer sought to reduce all complexity to uniform emptiness, while the transformed humans represented complexity taken to its ultimate extreme. All allied forces, this is Victoria, she transmitted across multiple dimensions simultaneously. The enemy feeds on consciousness and organized matter. Do not think of them as creatures to be fought, but as entropy itself given purpose. We must become more organized, more complex, more alive than they can comprehend. The defending humans merged and separated like drops of cosmic ocean, their enhanced existence allowing them to fight on the Devourer's own terms. Some fell to the entity's reality-consuming attacks, their carefully maintained complexity unraveled back into simple matter. But for each defender that was lost, others learned and adapted, growing stronger from the sacrifice. More Devourers emerged from the void, a full invasion force of entities that had consumed thousands of civilizations across the universe. They moved through space like a plague of absolute order, seeking to turn the galaxy's beautiful chaos into perfect, lifeless silence. The transformed humans met them at every entry point. Ships that were part technology, part living creature, part pure concept battled enemies that existed as wholes in reality itself. The combat was beyond the understanding of three-dimensional minds, but its effects rippled through normal space as stars flickered and planets shook. Admiral Vex, now partially transformed himself through emergency procedures, watched the impossible war unfold from his command post. Space itself was breaking down around the battle zones, revealing glimpses of the vast machinery humanity had built to sustain their new form of existence. The Devourers are retreating, reported Dr. Wells, her own transformation allowing her to perceive the battle's true scope. They are not destroyed, but they are withdrawing. Humanity has become something they cannot consume. It was true. The advanced scouts were pulling back, not defeated but confused. They had encountered a civilization that had evolved beyond their ability to understand or devour. Humanity had become so complex, so multidimensional, that the Devourers could not reduce them to simple matter. But victory came at a cost that shook the foundations of reality. Earth completed its final transformation, phasing entirely out of normal spacetime to become a fortress existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The planet would serve as an eternal guardian against future invasions from the darkness between stars. The humans who remained took on their role as protectors of the galaxy. No longer recognizable as the species that had once walked among the stars with curiosity and hope, they became something else entirely, guardians forged from sacrifice and necessity. The galaxy was safe, but the price of safety was the loss of humanity as it had once been. They had become eternal watchers, standing guard against the infinite dark that sought to reduce all consciousness to silence.